Glory to the first cause and his creation. Right, so I want to go through this budding feud between Andrew Tate and Sneako and give my thoughts on it, because this is being blown so far out of proportion, and the response is, like, I can't wait to see Tate's response to this, to what Sneako has just posted. But yeah, what's going on between the two of them is clearly a supreme case of miscommunication. So I'm going to take us through it, and I'm going to give my thoughts. Right, so Tate put out this tweet right here. He said, "I am half black and half white. Let me confirm something. Race is real. It's super real. I can literally turn my black side or white side on, like choosing a different video game character depending on the situation. In truth, that's true of everybody. Black people do this too all the time. The intelligent black people. Everybody does this. You call it professionalism. Everybody has that switch. Anyways,
whatever is more advantageous at the time. I can be white in the courtroom, a nigger in jail. I'm a hybrid, the ultimate version of human. But most of you are not hybrid. Most of you are one or the other."
The white and pay attention to this line here, because this is the whole problem, and where all this emotion and the responses stem from. This one line right here. He says in this tweet, "The white supremacists who say race is everything are totally right."
The white supremacists who say race is everything are totally right. It is. Ignoring race spells the end of the white man, as the white man's complex systems can be easily overloaded by brutality. White people disagree, court. Black people disagree, kill.
That's a little extreme, but more or less, a little extreme, but more or less.
Stabbing is easier than suing. It's not right, but it's fast. It's quick, it's efficient, and efficiency wins in the end. White people systems work with white people. Suing only works when suing is the only option. Bottom line, ignore race at your peril. India is India because they're Indians. Norway is Norway because they're Norwegian. You can argue all day about where's better and where isn't, but that is the facts. As a white person, it must be brutally frustrating to see a huge percentage of white people betray their own people. Also frustrating to see people come to white countries and shit on the natives all day, but perhaps white people deserve it for allowing so many white traitors to encourage it. Traitors are the worst. They inspire your enemy. History has always hated rats and traitors for this very reason. They're worse than the enemy itself. The word racist has cucked the white man into surrendering their lands and their women forever. The word racist has turned a large majority of whites into traitors. The white in me feels bad for you. The nigger in me is riding around with white women in Lambos. It is what it is, but race is real. And white supremacists are totally right about this. No white-only country means soon there will be no white people. You'll be outbred, you'll be out-violenced, you'll be cucked by words, you'll be betrayed by your own kind, and I am not your enemy for pointing this out. I am your brown friend, confirming you were right all along, but unlike you, I cannot be called racist to any serious effect.
And he can't, because he is half black and half white. It's actually tragic what's happened to white men in that respect, because white men cannot say anything at all without being called racist. And that's exactly the point that Tate makes here. That tweet is basically Tate saying white people are being destroyed. That's essentially the gist of his tweet. He's saying white people are not breeding, they're not making children, and white countries with a predominantly white population have introduced mass amounts of immigration, and the white majorities are essentially becoming minorities in those countries. And you see on the news that this immigration has brought a lot of violence with it. You see all the time about how immigrants are committing violent acts, and Tate is saying that the courts and the systems that white people have in these countries cannot deal with this problem that they're having of violent immigrants. Again, not all the immigrants are violent, but he's saying that there is a problem with these immigrants coming in and there is violence. And he's saying that the courts can't do it. It's too slow. He says you cannot fight this brutality, this ruthless brutality of people committing these violent acts through the legal system. It takes too long to charge people and throw them in a jail cell, because they can just keep doing violent acts while you're trying to figure out procedure. He's like, you're being overwhelmed. It's destroying your country. That is the point of the whole tweet. But this one line in the tweet. Right. So before Andrew made his response to Sneako's response, Sneako actually does a video response to Andrew's comment on his post. The Tate responded to that tweet and said, "I stopped talking to you years ago for a reason." Sneako then goes and makes a live response to that tweet from Andrew. In Tate's response to Sneako's live stream response, Tate essentially is calling Sneako out.
Tate tweet. Okay, what did Tate say? Tate says, "I stopped talking to you years ago for a reason." Okay. As if it's like God's grace to speak. Okay, you didn't even respond to what I say. You said that white supremacists are totally right. I give a fair criticism.
Even just the way Sneako just said that, where he was about to say, as if it's God's grace to speak to you. Even that right there is just arrogant. Why is he like that? Just relax.
Based off of Islam there, and you're like, I don't like you. You're not on the cool kids table. If that's what you believe instead of Islam or instead of what I'm talking about, then okay.
Yeah, I just want to say first off, again, both Tate and Sneako are newly converted Muslims. And Sneako just said in that clip, "I gave you a critique on the basis of Islam." And it's like Sneako just recently did a stream. He recently did a stream with Fusi, and he was doing all kinds of haram acts, things that go against the religion of Islam. That whole stream you can consider haram. So for him to now sit here on Twitter and start critiquing somebody else on the basis of Islamic teachings is hypocrisy.
You cannot be a passive-aggressive little girl. I understand you're young. But if you talk that way to people, you're going to be responded to a certain way. And you do it all the time. It's not just me. It's just who you are. You're very, smarmy, snarky. That's who you are. That's fine. But you deserved it. And you got brutally wrecked because you deserved it.
Right. And so when Tate says that, he's not wrong. Sneako is very passive aggressive. He does do this all the time, and I've seen it. And even after this video was made with Andrew Tate, because Andrew Tate in his original tweet said, "I'm half black and I'm half white." Sneako then goes to his Twitter, and actually let me show you guys. If you just scroll up on his Twitter, you'll see that Sneako has posted this picture of Michael Jackson. That is the definition of feminine frame and passive aggressiveness, right? Because Tate said he's half black and he's half white. So then all of a sudden, for no reason at all, the picture on the tweet doesn't have any caption. Sneako just posts a picture of Michael Jackson. That's passive aggressive. It's plausible deniability, because then he can just say, "Oh, I'm just posting a picture of Michael Jackson." Like, no, the picture has meaning and he's posting it for a reason. It's like when women dress scantily clad, or if a woman, drops something and she bends over. It's like, we know what you're doing. But you have this plausible deniability, like, oh, she's just picking up the pencil. It's like, no, we know what you're doing. That's what Sneako's doing with that picture.
Because you deserved it. Because you can't call me a Jew. And also, just because you've been Saudi and I've been trapped on house arrest, you don't get to be a better Muslim than me and tell me how the world works either, friend.
And that's another point that Tate makes, is like, Tate says this because Sneako is quoting scripture to him, right? And Sneako knows that Tate is also a Muslim. Would Sneako have responded to it with a bunch of Islamic scripture? The answer is no. If you're let's say I was a Christian and Sneako says something, right? And I go up to him and I start saying he's wrong because in the Christian faith it says this, this, and this. He would say to me, "Okay, that's fantastic. I'm not Christian," right? You don't start quoting scripture to people who are not of your religion. But Sneako did this, and because he's quoting Islamic scripture to Tate, he's preaching to Tate, and so he's acting as though he's a better Muslim than he is, because you would only do that to teach. And if you're teaching somebody, it means you have knowledge and you're better than them. That's why you need to assist them. So it's extremely condescending, right? If you're cooking and somebody comes along and is like, "Oh no, you're doing it wrong. You got to do it like this and this." That's condescension. That's teaching. They're essentially telling you that they're a better cook than you at whatever it is that you're cooking. It's condescension. So Tate rightfully points it out and says, "You're not a better Muslim than me. You need to relax. You're not a prophet. Just chill."
Just because you've been Saudi and I've been trapped on house arrest, you don't get to be a better Muslim than me and tell me how the world works either, friend.
It's wild hypocrisy on Sneako's part because he's done a bunch of haram acts, and recently too on Fusi's stream when he had a dating show, and Tate ends his stream by basically saying, you know, don't pile on Sneako. He's trying not to have beef with Sneako. He explained the tweet to Sneako, which Sneako clearly misunderstood, and he made it known. He let Sneako know, you know, this is not appropriate for you to be quoting scripture to me, and he tells his fans not to attack Sneako, not to pile on him, and he's basically like, Sneako, you're young. That's basically what it is. He's like, Sneako, you're young. You need to watch what you say, and he ends it. He's not trying to have beef with Sneako, but then you see later on that Sneako again doesn't message Tate, doesn't try to talk to Tate. He then goes again and makes another live stream in response to Tate's response. That's feminine frame. That's feminine frame. And I'm so curious what he says. So I'm going to watch that right now. We're going to see what Sneako says in his response to Tate, in response to Tate's response to his response to Tate's tweet.